All right, welcome to Story Comic Core episode. I believe this is technically episode 5. Last week that never happened. I don't know what that was. It is blinked out of existence. Thanos dusted, if you will. Do what you will. But anyway, we have a panel this week, so I'm thrilled to say. So my name's Carson. I'll be your interim host tonight. Alec, I think he's at work still. So Alec, hopefully, maybe if you want, you can jump on in a little bit if you get home in time or what have you. And then 90 MF Comics Chad, which how's it going? I just saw he opted in the chat. He got that George Perez con funk we heard so much about from C2E2, I believe, basically. So, Patient Zero has spread his contagion all the way down to the Florida cons and that stuff. But luckily, this guy, he seemed to be immune to that crazy con crud. He just got back from a con himself. We got Caleb, Comics Murphy. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, I'm kicking it like a fat rat in a cheese factory, ready to go over an awesome story. Gets a little crazy towards the middle, y'all, so buckle up and get ready for a wild one. How y'all doing tonight?
Oh, it's going to be great. By the way, we will try to cover 2 storylines. We're going to try to get through issues 16 through 20, which we'll describe here in a second. But next up, we got the Macho Head 84. What's going on, Kenny? How you doing tonight?
The cream has risen to the top, and here we are. We're here, ready to get into why. If you are into S&M, you've come to the right show.
Yeah, I always say it's almost kind of like my Grant Morrison reads where I'm like, this is the one where stuff kind of gets really weird. Well, this is the one where Brian K. Vaughan decides to get pretty weird. So we've brought on another special guest since 90s film at Con Crud. He called in the reserves as well. We got Comics Misexplained. How's it going, man? Glad to have you. Right.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here, man. I'm up for that the S&M, that Smurf and Murphy, if you will. Yeah, man. It's good to be here, man. Glad to substitute for a little bit. Down to hang with the homies. Glad to be here.
I love how you're representing White Whale too.
That's man. What's up? Not sure if the chat can see. We got the boxes on the bottom, so I'm not sure they can see on the screen. So got to raise it up.
Now White Whale's gonna have to be gone too soon.
Well, before we get started into our crazy York Brown adventure tonight, I want to go over the chat. We got the Mastodon Comic and Collecting. What's going on, Don? Hope you're having a good night tonight. We got the Comic Dude. He says, sup. Nice to see you in the chat, Comic Dude. We've already covered our panel. We got Comic Food 2814. I know he's a big Green Lantern fan, but hey, I'm a Green Lantern fan too, and I also love me some Why the Last Man, so he knows a good read. We got, here's one of the best Instagrammers there is. He's been showing con pics all weekend. Definitely check his stuff out. Stay Puff 1983 in the chat. How's it going, man? So to kind of recap, I guess we left off on issue 15. So it was a pretty big issue in my opinion. You kind of get to see like all of the intertwining storylines come into one. So you have the Israeli women. They're really like getting down on this farm, trying to get Yorick captured. So they have the last man. They're going to try to take her back to, the president, which is York's mother, or, what have you, whatever all the positions are called. And you kind of find out at the end, Hero is hopefully encountering her mother, or at least we hope, or maybe we don't hope it's Hero. We really don't know because she's crazy and unstable, like a lot of people in this comic book. Also, the astronauts, on top of all this, like we needed something else to happen. The astronauts are landing in the middle of this whole scenario outside this farm. So they got to try to get them. And unfortunately, they only get one of the astronauts. It's the female astronaut to York's chagrin. But they find out she is pregnant with one or both of the other astronauts' child, however that works out. So quite the crazy spot to leave off.
Quite the Maury Povich episode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't put you in much of a great place picking back up either. You think you're in like the 1700s during a pirates battle or something.
So yeah, we'll be starting off tonight with Comedy and Tragedy, which covers Why the Last Man's 16 through 17. So before we get started, we're talking in the off air for a second. And I got to say, I think this may be the best cover in the entire run of Why the Last Man. What do you guys think of this one?
Hands down.
Oh, yeah.
Covered. It's so good. It's amazing. Yeah. I love it.
That's my best character in the story as well.
Ampersand. Gotta love it.
So absolutely love that cover. So I'll try to show off the covers as we go through tonight because I love the series so much. I've been reading the hardcover, but hey, I also got the individuals for this run too. So why not? So we start off. You're just like, what in the world's going on? So you're getting the comedy and tragedy, Act 1 of 2, and we're starting off. And I gotta say at first, this is not Pia Guerra art. What do you guys think of this art going into this comedy and tragedy storyline?
It's fine. I didn't hate it. I mean, it's it's not like repulsive or something.
Mhm.
I like the fine lines on it. It doesn't have like a hard edge outline. It's not thick. It looks decent. It kind of reminds me of like some of the newspaper funnies on Sundays. I'm trying to think of which comic, like I don't know, one of those drama comics, like Mary Beth or whatever it's called. I don't know. I forget what it's called, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of the old school kind of funnies. But yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's fine.
And in the opening page, I do like how they use the panels, how she like actually pops out of and overlaps the panel above her to make it look like she's coming out of it, basically.
Nice call.
I do enjoy that.
Yeah, it's not bad layout. It is worth noting though, because it's
True.
fine. It's serviceable. I'd say it's serviceable, but there is something really nice about Pia Guerra's art in this book. Like it's like the perfect style. It's so clean, and it's tough to beat. But this one does the job.
Yeah, sometimes when you're reading like a full big run of a book, especially like a 60-issue run like Why the Last Man, sometimes you get used to and really like that consistency of the Pia Guerra art. But here you get an artist by the name of Paul Chadwick for the next 2 issues. So I'm just curious. Yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
Like if they did that on Monstrous, like change Sana Takeda to somebody else, dude, I would lose it. I would quit my crap because that story goes with that art. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying for sure.
Yep. So that's as soon as I flipped that first page, I'm like, oh, like I said, I don't hate it like you guys, but it almost feels like to me when I was reading Superman as a kid, I had to read the issues of Steel, like the Superman, the Man of Steel. It was done by this artist named John Bognavine. That art style reminds me just a little bit of this. So if that makes any sense. So keep it going with the story here. You kind of see this like crazy treasure hunt scenario going down. You're just like, this seems very strange. Where is York Brown? Where is Agent 355? And
I don't know anybody here. What is happening?
Exactly.
So strange.
So you kind of flip through the pages here, and you kind of find out that this is a play. They're acting, and you're kind of getting familiar with the culture that has been established in this post-man world and Why the Last Man. So
almost like a Old West traveling performance, basically.
Exactly.
Kind of feel that I got from it.
Yep.
Totally.
Yeah, it reminded me of like, I don't know if you guys were fans of the show Deadwood.
Oh my gosh, dude!
I love
That's the best show ever.
There was a similar kind of like traveling acting troupe in that show. It kind of made me think of this crew a little bit. Like they were pretty gangster for traveling actors.
Yeah.
So as they kind of cut the scene, if you will, you kind of see them taking off their spirit gum beards here and all that stuff. And then this Stepford wife looking lady comes
Susie Homemaker over here.
Exactly. She's given this flyer. She's kind of in short, one of the representatives of her city. And she's just trying to find out if this theater troupe takes requests because obviously they don't have television anymore and Why the Last Man, radio, stuff like that. So they're kind of just, she's just kind of looking for someone to reenact her favorite soap opera stories that kind of got cut because people died. So what do you guys think about this character?
It's different.
Yeah, it seems like a suburban mom just wants familiarity, and same thing with like her and her friends that are kind of more privileged, I guess, So just kind of want to see the soap operas again and kind of a little bit of normalcy, a little taste of that. And like, oh, well, you're a drama performance. Like, can you please reenact this? We'll hire you to do it. It's like, yeah, sure. We'll do that. But like, can we please do like our own original story? Maybe it kind of develops later on. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she do be looking kind of fresh though. I don't know.
And another thing I kind of take from this scene is the value of, money in the world of Why the Last Man. She's trying to get them, entice them to come to their city and do what they want and enact whatever they want. and they're more interested in just getting obviously better canned food because they've been living off cuttlefish for the last several months and they're tired of it. So obviously paper money has no meaning anymore in their world. So that's why I really dug these couple issues. You really get to see the world building aspect.
What's your guys' favorite canned good?
Oh, I don't know. I have to think about that.
Dude, I like those little peach halves, like the ones that are cut in half. I don't
Those
know
are good.
why, bro. I love those things.
I don't eat too much canned stuff, but I got to shout out my old favorite wrestler, Mick Foley. His, the overstuffed beef ravioli. So much Mr. Sacco likes it. Mr. Sacco's covered in beef ravioli crap.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I like me some canned soups. Those are pretty good.
Kansas soup.
I used to love those beanie weenies as a kid. But went through a sardines phase too. But I don't know. I don't really eat much canned foods anymore. But if I had to, hey man, do what you got to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So as we keep going here, we kind of just see them chilling in their tent, hanging out. They're kind of just comparing, stories around the fire, basically, and then kind of skipping way ahead here just to kind of get to the point. They see a monkey in a tree in a soiled diaper. So this is where stuff kind of gets pretty interesting again. You kind of hear the theories on what happened with the world and why things are the way they are. And then they decide that they want to adopt this monkey because it's cute. So what's your take on this scene, Caleb? I love you some ampersand.
I'm glad ampersand came and saved this issue. Honestly, I probably would have dropped it if he hadn't showed up.
Yeah.
I think if I was in a traveling crew of actors, a live monkey prop is like
a male monkey.
Like, hell yeah, let's get this monkey in the play ASAP.
Yeah.
I like that he said re because then with the cover, I thought like to re or not to re. It's just kind of fit hand in hand with me.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the other kind of takeaway from the scene coming up, you kind of see poor Ampersand has a bandage on his arm. So there's been, some sort of like off-panel conflict we kind of missed, whether it be like Dr. Man had to give him a shot in the arm and he freaked out, or he got in a fight with another wild animal. We don't really know yet. So, something happened to kind of startle him and make him want to run off. And then this is where they also kind of discover the way he's been cared for, or I guess lack thereof. So that's when they go to change his diaper. They kind of figure out what's going on. They think it's some sort of lab experiment until he starts doing something a little weird in that bottom panel down there.
He gets a little frisky, doesn't he?
Yeah.
A little lipstick action.
Yep.
A little red rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is when they kind of start to get, like, basically at this point, Ampersand acts as their muse. So they're just like, wow, what if in our world, like, one of our husbands or a man came back in one day and they start to kind of create their new play from there to use Ampersand as their inspiration. And then kind of as we close out this issue, it says, trust me, Edie, this play is going to be a fucking sensation. People come from all over to see it, including ninjas in trees.
Yeah.
With night vision goggles.
With night vision goggles, yes. So that pretty much wraps up the first issue of this arc, issue 16. So overall, before we get into issue 17, what were your overall thoughts on issue 16?
I was glad it was over.
Yeah.
It was an interesting change of pace for me. I think this is where it put in their head, right? The idea of we're like, oh, well, let's make a story about the last man on Earth. Like, isn't that where it developed, or is that the next issue? I think it's this one, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this one, because there's like 2 issues devoted to the play,
right?
The theater crew, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like these 2, they felt like kind of filler issues, just a straight up detour. Ampersand's the only familiar face for the most part. So, not my favorite, but it wasn't a total drag. And the good thing about the writing on this book is like, it's even on issues that aren't your favorite, it's never a slog. Like the pace is always moving with Brian K. Vaughan in this book. So even if it's not your favorite, it's never tedious,
Right.
Yeah. I was always interested in seeing like new characters and how they're going to interact with the ones we know. I figured coming back around full circle, and I was kind of looking forward to how that was going to happen. So once they introduced these new characters, I was like, okay, well, let's see what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's definitely a filler issue, but I was down for the ride, man. Totally down for it.
Yeah, I mean, especially after issue 15, all the stuff we kind of covered in that. You almost kind of needed that filler issue type break because they culminated so many storylines at the same time with the astronauts, the Israelis, York's mother, even Dr. Mann dealing with these other two geneticists. They wrapped up a lot of stuff, so we kind of needed that breather.
Yeah,
just to kind of reflect on the world that they're traveling in. So
and it keeps you kind of fresh too,
Yes.
instead of seeing the same characters over and over and over again. It's like a little break, and you get some new characters in there. So not bad.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I do have a weakness for bearded women too. So
Awesome. Before we get into our discussion of issue 17, let's go ahead and hit up this chat. We've had some people join us in here. We got Perry Comics. How's it going, Perry? Nice to see you in the chat tonight. We've also got I can't wait to see these guys at Baltimore. Real Comic Book Talk. They got great content on their
Love
channel.
those guys.
Are awesome.
So fun hanging with them. Looking forward to seeing you guys in Baltimore again.
Nice.
So awesome.
And he's in the chat. He's clanging. He's banging. We got Big E Shack. What's going on, man? Always like seeing Big E Shack in the chats. We've also got the Great Legend Show. How's it going, man? He's talking about canned food still. He says, I like that Popeye brand spinach can. We also got,
the man.
Throw you some bacon in there, bro.
We also got one of the hottest new auction bidders in the community, Theory 23. What's going on, Theory 23? Unfortunately, I have no books for sale tonight. We're talking Why the Last Man, but hopefully you are down with the why. I know we all are here. And this guy wrapped up an awesome live stream earlier today. We got Bub's Comics, host of the No Faces comic book chat. Usually it's him, Metarog, and DS. So if you want a good live show, definitely check them out 7 p.m. Eastern Mondays. Always good to check them out. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and open up issue 17 of Why the Last Man, so we can wrap up the second half of this storyline. So it opens up with that new play that kind of have been working with. We see some artichoke hearts about to go to waste here. So to open it up, and says Lionel, the last man on Earth's name is Lionel. So they're debating that, and then I like how the opening scene here has just York. He's in paradise right now. I'm sorry, Ampersand. Ampersand looks like he's in paradise right here, just surrounded by actresses, having a great time. What do you guys think about the opening of it so far?
I think it is hilarious, dude. It opens up with the bearded chick in her bra, dude. It's just like you're like, oh my god, what's going on here right now?
Yeah, total questions her commitment. It's like, okay, well, we wasted a canned food, like some food that we like need for this act, on purpose to do a trial run of the play, and then you stop to question the character's name, and you're like not even dressed in your full costume. It's like, what are you doing? And so there's a little conflict there, and then they get over that. But yeah, it was a good start.
Yeah, and I really liked the first 2 pages of the narration playing out in like that typewriter set.
Oh yeah, dude.
Her writing, like the writing of the script transferring right over to the panel. So that was a pretty nice touch.
Yeah. I also kind of like the fact that they have the artichoke hearts probably means they got paid in food. So
yeah, because it's not cuttlefish.
Cuttlefish, yes, exactly. So they're kind of just debating here, like, they're continuing their conversation kind of from last issue of like what caused the whole thing that happened, and now they're talking about a book. It says back in the 1800s, there was a book called The Last Man about 21st century plague that killed almost everyone except for a guy named Lionel. So they kind of tell you where that Lionel name came from, and that the Black Death was causing everything. So one person thinks that book was basically a future vision of what happened to them. So as we keep going here, this Stepford wife looking lady comes back
the
out.
Flyer.
And then you get the flyer. She says, the Fish and Bicycle Traveling Theater Troupe proudly presents The Last Man, a play by Case Thomas, and whose big old face is on that poster by Ampersand. So Caleb, let's talk about that poster.
Well, technically, in their eyes, Ampersand is the last man because he's the male monkey, and they don't know about York yet. So they basically based York's story on Ampersand, which in my book is so awesome because of the fact that Ampersand steals the show every time in my book.
And they like wanted to hide that. I guess it was one of their friends that ended up putting it on the flyer. She's like, no, like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
And like kind of ruined it for them,
Yeah, all I know is I want to start a GoFundMe to make copies of that poster so I can put it on my wall.
Good call.
And I also kind of like when she rips up the poster. It's like they always try to sneak as many hidden Ys
Why?
as possible.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
Here's another Y. So there you go.
Totally.
Y hunters. So it's just kind of funny because they can't see the Y, but he's coming for him, as we're gonna find out here in a few after he sees that poster.
I like how.
Go
I like
ahead.
I like how Ampersand was like heard something. He's looking over the shoulder. Like, what are you looking at? And then like there's a little ninja hiding on the
Yeah.
roof.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That is an epic panel.
Yep. So then after that, they're like, what is this ninja up to? What is going on? And then we cut to 11 hours later. We get to see kind of the play in its full form play out here. And the crowd, they love it. A lot of them are obviously they're emotionally touched by, the thought of their husbands, boyfriends, what have you, coming back to life all of a sudden, being sitting at their dinner table or something like that. And, just, being angry at first, but then happy they're back at the same time. So
Also, prior that, I just wanted to say that the stepper wife was mad because she felt like the monkey Ampersand was like an insult to, I guess all the men they lost. It was kind of like, it was kind of like an insult, I guess, is how she took it.
Mhm.
And so she didn't want the show to happen. She wanted to stop it, and they got over like kind of, an argument over, creative rights, I guess I would say. And it's like, no, this is not what I wanted you guys to do. It's like, oh, just wait till the show. And then finally the show is happening. And she's like, oh, just wait to see what's going to happen. And so now at the play, they're like, well, has she shown up yet? What's going on? Have you seen her? So that's kind of where, we are, right now. So the play is going on. Seems pretty successful. Everyone's clapping, having a good time. And then, it continues. I guess apparently they do a little kissing scene.
Yep.
And the woman's playing the man is pretty upset. He's like, oh, she keeps slipping me the tongue, and I'm about to smack her. It's kind of some harassment going on. And then you see the ninja coming, watching on from above.
Night
And it
vision.
goes-
I love that.
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
Yep. So in the next page here, we get we find out this ninja's name is Toyota and is talking to a Dr. M, which the Dr. M we know, Dr. Man. Could it be Dr. Man on the other end of that line? We'll just have to keep reading and tuning in to Story Comic Core to find out, maybe. But nonetheless, we've got Toyota here. Now we can call her a name. She's kind of just keeping an eye out on this monkey because they, obviously she's been trying to track it down for a while. So that's kind of like probably the biggest storyline development that actually happens in this two-story arc here. And then also on the next page, it kind of goes into crazy like soap opera style territory where every woman on Earth is now throwing themselves at the one man on Earth. So what did you guys think about these two pages here?
And that's when the crowd turns on the play. You start seeing the booze. come
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Yep.
Real
They
quick.
don't want this trashy stuff, these ladies.
Yeah, I like it on the next panel where I just never got to remember her name because she's not in too much of it. The one that's been opposing them the whole time is in the worst disguise ever when she finally just calls them on their play basically.
Wearing
I've
the
seen
Kentucky
enough.
Derby hat and stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, you just interrupted my fight scene and just tackles her.
And then she does the big reveal. She throws the hat to the side and she's like, oh yeah, it's me basically.
Yeah. It's just like, it was me, Austin.
I've been here the whole time.
So yeah, she's called the play of mockery. A lot of the crowd actually, they're kind of split on it. A lot of them just wanted to sit down and shut up. She says, are we really going to let these people portray women as petty, vicious tramps? And Miss Explain says, you interrupted my fight scene, you effing bee. It just tackles her from the stage, like a spear from the stage all the way to the ground. That gotta be a powerful spear right there.
Susie Homemaker straight goes for the eye gouge though, dude. Instantly.
Yeah. She's not playing. She really hated this play. And then on the next page, this is where we finally get. They're not even like really unveiled yet. We could probably guess who these three people are just based on like
Gas
their,
masks.
reactions and expressions. Which we kind of talked about the art to start this off. I did kind of like the little tropes he put in here, especially for Dr. Mann back there. She's like, "Oh my God, no!"
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think about the reveal of our main characters with shotguns?
Oh yeah, I think it's awesome, and I love how that back here, Yorick still got his same gas mask and same raincoat.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gave it away when they walked in for me. I didn't even count the three. I just noticed his little raincoat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just I knew like immediately. I'm like, oh, cool, nice to see our characters and them meet up with these new characters. I knew it was gonna happen. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah.
Like 2 issues in, and not like 4 or 5.
Right.
So, I didn't get dragged on too long. Got to see him back right away. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was good to see. It was like, all right, cool. They arrived. It didn't. Yeah, I think it was like just the right amount of time to explore this little scene here. And it's also cool that right when they bust through, the ninja that's been pursuing him all this time takes off and says something like,
This.
paying job. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I ain't getting paid enough for this. Get out of here.
Yeah, it looks like Toyota brought a knife to a gunfight, so she's just gone.
Yeah, and that seems to be like a new, because they don't really dig into. It definitely starts the new question of who hired the ninja. Is there a whole? Because we haven't really heard much from Asia part of the world thus far. We've been dealing with the Israelis and Americans and the Russians primarily. So it's a cool little breadcrumb of like, oh, we're gonna see some, what's the Yakuza doing right about now?
All right, so as we continue, we got Dr. Mann goes, listen up, we're looking for the monkey. And basically the three people are like, why do you need this monkey? It's like, we're with who? That's right, the World Health Organization. She's like, oh, you got too fast, 355. We're 4 lines away from an Abbott and Costello routine. So
I love that.
Yeah, definitely like the way all of this plays out. She says, that animal is a public health risk. We have to take it back. And the lady says, absolutely not. We have patched up whatever you monsters did to him. He belongs to us now. And then that's when they kind of actually spill the beans. Everybody's like, he?
It's like, well, he's got the Asian flu. It's very contagious, so give him back.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. Here you go.
Whenever Dr. Mann does the reveal with the flyer and she's like, we're here for the monkey, I instantly thought of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas when Johnny Depp's like, all right, let's cut down to brass tacks. How much for the ape?
And he continues to explain. It's like, oh, it's not really a boy. It's and he definitely stumbles on his words here. He's like a female with a male genitalia, like that actress. What's her name? So
yeah, he said it's a hermaphrodite. Yeah.
It's like the one from all those whores. Like what the? It's like basically says it's a hermaphrodite with the Asian flu, and they cannot wait to give this monkey back at that point. So poor Ampersand once again.
Who is the actress? What's her name? Is there a famous hermaphrodite actress or actor, whatever?
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
what's her name?
Yeah, it's what's her name.
So then Yorick immediately just says, welcome back, shit slinger. So definitely like the relationship keep playing out between those two. Yeah. And then he immediately goes, hey, is this really a play about that last guy on Earth? And then they start arguing about it again. And he's like, I just don't need to know how it ends. And then he turns the page and says, come on. And, like 355 is like, seriously, Yorick, we don't have time for this crap. And she goes, by committing suicide and letting the women save themselves. And Yorick, to close us out, says, no offense, but your play sounds like a piece of shit. And they say, well, everyone's a critic.
Everyone's a critic.
So definitely
looks at the screen. Everyone's a critic. Wah, wah.
Exactly.
Oh, I loved it. I love that ending.
What was your final take on issues 16 through 17 of Y the Last Man, guys?
I'm glad it picked back up for sure.
Yeah, and a nice ending, like that goofy "everyone's a critic" page is like, it's particularly funny because the panel right before is Yorick saying, "No offense, but your play sounds like a piece of shit." Like it goes from hardcore to just like waka waka. Like,
totally.
I feel like that'd be Brian K. Vaughn's reaction. Like someone's like, so far That book, Why the Last Man, it's a real piece of shit. I could just see Brian K. Vaughan like, everyone's a critic.
Yeah.
It was a nice wrap up, man. It was a nice little detour. You know, like we got some questions. You know, like who's this ninja? And we got the monkey ampersand back into the regular characters, and then like where's it gonna go from here? So it was a nice little detour. And I was like, okay, well maybe we're gonna see these characters that we got introduced to again later on. I'm sure, probably, hopefully. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them again. But yeah, it was a good little fun sidetrack.
All right, so sometimes when you get done with a huge storyline, you got to take those breathers. Maybe some people call them filler issues, but the next couple issues, oh my God, it's about to get real weird in here, guys. But before we get super weird, we got to check back in with the chat one more time before we get into issue 18, which is part 1 of the infamous Safe Word storyline. So we got Manny NYC is in the chat. He says, "What's up, my guys? Here giving thumbs up for Popeye." That's gotta go. So we're still talking about the Popeye spinach. People love some Popeye. Great Legends talking about Popeye still, so love that. Let's see who else joins. We got Take the Time Collectibles in the chat. How's it going, Take the Time? Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. And Great Legend and Biggie Shack, you know, they like that spear that happened in the last issue, so they're talking about Goldberg, Undertaker, and all that good stuff now.
Totally.
So, all right. So without further ado, we got to talk about issue 18 of Why the Last Man. And as you can kind of tell by this cover, it gets real interesting here. So we start off.
You think this is Popeye?
Yes, absolutely. Was it like Yapai? No, I do remember that. What's his name on that one? Like on
this
the
is
cover?
Action Comics.
No, I just meant like, what do they call that character?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't read it yet.
Popeye.
I just saw the cover and was like, hey, that's Popeye. He's got the anchor on his arm and everything.
It's just like I actually have an issue of Superman. Since Great Legends in the chat, I'll just talk about it real quick because he likes it. The Captain Thunder Superman, or it's exactly Shazam, except they don't call him Shazam or Captain Marvel. He has just Captain Thunder. And then Great Legend says that Popeye is called Captain Strong. So
Captain Strong.
A lot of
Thank you. I knew the legend would know.
Yep. So, Safe Word, it starts off. We're going back to Cleveland, Ohio, 15 years ago.
To the nursing home.
Yeah, it says.
I like his rat tail.
I know. I was going to say that too, dude. I remember those when I was a kid.
Yeah, definitely went to
bowl
junior
cut.
My
high.
mom would never let me grow one.
I
Yeah,
definitely
that's
went
why
to
I
junior
had it
high
when I
with
was
some of these
like-
weird kids.
That's why I grew a rat tail when I was like 22. I like living on my own. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a rat tail. I was like a crust punky. I was like, yeah, I'm growing a rat tail.
Yeah, it's like you just got done watching like Terminator 2, that like redhead kid from Salute Your Shorts or whatever Nickelodeon show that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little Budnick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was moped listening to Guns N' Roses, like, I need a haircut kind of like that. Then the rat tail came in the style on top of it. He's like, yeah, this is awesome.
Hell yeah.
So we go into this flashback at a nursing home, and Hero is arguing to her family that York always gets to be last when visiting their grandfather. And their father says, Hero, I'm not asking you to charge into battle against King Charles's cavalry. I just want you to say hello to your grandfather. And as we keep going here, she says, I don't care. I don't even like him. He always tries to touch my head, and luckily she gets cut off there before it gets
Weird.
We're going to get weird anyway. We don't need worse on top of what we're about to go through. And then, York's just like, fine, I'll go first.
His Joker shirt, though, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yep.
The 90s style Joker. Because I remember getting those lunch boxes after the 89 Batman came out. And, like, on a lot of the art on the lunch boxes stuff, they still use that, like, early 80s Joker that you saw in, like, the Super Friends and that style of stuff, or the superheroes action figures. So then his dad's like, there's a brave soldier. He didn't even need St. Crispin's Day speech to get him in the front of the line. And then since it was the 90s, Hero had to wish AIDS on both of them. So
Oh, man.
yeah, like I said, they're really going for the fences in this storyline here.
Yeah.
So he goes in, he visits his grandfather. I almost thought at first in the first panel, like, maybe he has dementia. So he's like, York, who's York? And then he's just, being smart.
Just messing with him.
Kind of like that classic, York Brown. He's a smart ass. So you kind of see where
He gets it.
here. Yeah. He says, come here, you little bastard. What brings you to this dump? So,
Pardon me, guys. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
okay. So he says, hey, how come there are so many women here? He says, because women live longer than men because they all suck the goddamn life out of us. So
Yeah.
he says, he's just immediate smartass. And he says, York says, well, it must be cool to be like the only guy of so many girls all over the place. He's like, crazy? It's hell on earth. Ain't nothing worse than ladies in numbers.
Someday you'll understand.
Someday.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, he understood all right. So definitely some obvious foreshadowing there. And immediately we cut to the present where we got a nice four-wheeler chase going. Four-wheelers versus horses.
Heck
So,
yeah, dude.
Luckily, 355 is driving and not York. Otherwise, they'd be really screwed. And he's having a great time for some reason. So he says, this is fucking sweet. He says, we're being chased by a posse of cowgirls. And she's just like, shut up. Kind of like, you know, keep going back to my wrestling references because if I'm seizing this show, I'm doing wrestling references, especially since Big E and Legend. It's kind of like your Monsoon and Heenan. Heenan says something stupid. Then Grell Monsoon's like, oh, will you stop? So there you go. And then luckily Dr. Mann has her own four-wheeler, but obviously she is not, you know, a person of the Culper ring, so she's having a tough time keeping up.
Now, in the back of y'all's trade, does it have this like the pre-cut to this book? Mine has safe words, full story or what, the full script for Y number 8. Yeah, dude,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
in the
how
hardcover too.
I love how when he's explaining how for this guy to draw that panel, he's
Mhm.
talking about the cowgirls, and he's like, "Have fun with this one, partner," and like wrote it like a cowboy. I thought it was hilarious.
That's funny. I actually didn't read that.
No,
That's
the
awesome.
Trade doesn't have that, and I think
Yeah,
it's cool. I feel like they do a lot of little nods to superhero books in this, like
Oh
that-
yeah,
that red hoodie that he's wearing. It kind of has like a flowing red cape as he's riding on the ATV. I feel like it might be a little Superman nod, you know?
Yeah, now I'm actually just sitting there because last week I speed read this for this show and then we didn't do it. So now I'm actually sitting here and reading this. And actually, Brian K. Vaughan does say, like, include the picture of the Jack Nicholson Joker on the front of it. Will please give us a heads up now if that will be a problem, legal or anything. I do like that part.
how cool is that, dude?
Yeah, that's cool. He says it'll be about York the Jester in several ways too coming up. So that's actually pretty cool too. So shotguns once again are fired. That seems to be a theme here as well. And Dr. Mann unfortunately gets her tire blown, so she gets launched, and that basically means that you know, she's kind of out of commission. But luckily, they have 355 with them.
And they've got ampersand in a kitty crate.
Exactly. Yeah. Luckily, he's in the crate. That way, he can't run and get away. So, what do you guys think of our encounter with the cowgirls here?
I think they're badasses, but turns out they're really not.
Yeah.
No match for 355, anyways.
Yeah. So they're having their confrontation here. 355's keeping them talking, trying to identify herself. You know, why they kind of describe exactly who they are besides just, you know, your generic cowgirls. It turns out they're against the Amazons. They don't like the way the Amazons work. That, you know, you can kind of see in their world the Amazons are getting their represented very poorly, especially by the actions of Hero in past issues. And speaking of representing themselves poorly, we get York trying to break up the situation with basically pouring gas on a fire. He says he's going to turn this horse into Godfather, basically. So
When joining a club and self-mutilation is a requirement, I think you've got a problem. So yeah, the Amazons are definitely a little messed up.
absolutely. So I just like where the one lady's like, "Oh no, Buttercup!" Like the most generic horse name possible.
Yeah, and the other girl's like, "Watch it, I'll kill you and your girlfriend." And
Yeah.
he's not really that disguised, so just
No, he's
further,
terrible, guys.
yeah. But it's just funny how like he gets he kind of passes as a female like pretty easily.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh,
basically
York.
says like, "Hey, I don't have boobs because I'm one of them crazy Amazons. I'm crazy. We breastless Amazons ache for the sweet embrace of Mother Oblivion." Yeah. So finally, 355 just fires her shotgun right in front of the horses and kind of scares them all off. And basically, that gives them the advantage because they still have the four wheelers. Luckily, they're not scared off by shotgun blasts. So there you go. And then
Dr. Man.
Exactly. This is when things are calming down. She goes, "Do these look mutilated to you, you ignorant shitheads?" Even she's getting all York on this situation at this point.
He's all swaddling him. Look, he's so cute.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, she just had to pick herself up off the ground after losing her tire, and she's all PO'd. And, you know, Wyatt kind of wraps up the thing saying, "Geez, so much for protecting a lady's dignity." So what do you guys think about, you know, Dr. Man's outburst here?
I think she's just acting out in any way she can. She's not a fighter, and she's just tired of getting freaking crapped on.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Clutch move. Sometimes you just got to release the puppies. And, you know?
I mean, I'm sure they're like hot and sweaty anyways. You got to let them breathe, you know?
Yeah.
So we kind of find out here what they're attempting to do. It looks like poor Amberson, unfortunately, he's getting sick. He's getting worse. And they're trying to get to this hospital. But 355, she's putting her foot down after that stunt that Y just pulled. She goes, "You're not going to the hospital, York. Not after that crap you just pulled back there." He's like, "What? I just saved your lives and you punished my monkey? He's going to die without medicine." She's like, "You didn't save our lives. You needlessly risked your own again." Anyway, Dr. Man and I are taking Amberson to St. Joseph's, which is the hospital. We're not bringing you with us. So it's like, "Where are you going to leave me?" And we get this, like, you know, wonderful creepy cabin in the woods after, of course, 355. She gets her little pun in there. She's like, "Saddle up. That's where we're going." So I do like that little touch. So we get to meet
Good old 7-Eleven.
Yes.
7-Eleven.
Dude, 7-Eleven Cubans, bro.
And I
Best
found it
thing ever.
interesting. When I see you guys show your pages, it's funny that your double page layout is different than mine.
Oh,
And the
weird.
soft-
Yeah, because they're still in the daylight scene here, and then they go to the cabin there.
Yeah.
That's
Interesting.
crazy.
Yeah, I've noticed when you guys show the books, I'm like, huh, it looks strange.
You said
Which is
yours
weird,
didn't
'cause
have. You said yours didn't have the script though at the end, right?
Right, because this is just I only had the hard cover for the first volume, and then the rest I just picked up in the cheats.
Yeah, my digital version didn't have that either. It was just like the basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's the soft one, too. It's like a fourth printing or something, though.
Dang.
Yeah, that's super. It just kind of is weird how that works because obviously it just kind of like your brain flow while you're reading, if that makes any sense, is slightly different. Because I was telling Caleb before you guys hopped on, I've been reading a bunch of Saga because this has gotten me into all the Brian K. Vaughan stuff. So I read 20 issues of Saga in like 3 days.
Nice, dude. That's awesome.
Actually,
I love Saga, dude.
I've only read the first volume, and that's it. Like, I really want to like.
good. It's
start
very
over from the beginning, do it
you
all. Yeah.
definitely need to keep reading it.
Yeah, I want to. I'm definitely gonna like binge it all too. Like, well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
probably get all 3 because like, I think the third one's about to come out. And then they're gonna
Yeah.
make like a big ass one, like a big giant deluxe of all 3. I heard.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's supposed to come out. I think like in a couple months, but it's like it's a big, huge, giant version. It's like a Bible or a Webster's Dictionary.
The reason I mention is because in that one, Brian K. Vaughan is so good about leaving that cliffhanger for that last page. So, like, depending on like if that situation was in Saga, it almost like ruined the story for me a little bit because every time, like on the last page of each comic, it's like you turn that page and there's like a huge cliffhanger. So
Yeah.
I just kind of find what you just mentioned extremely interesting.
Yeah, page layout's definitely important when it comes to like
Yeah.
comic books, man. It's great. Like, you just really depends on how it's laid out. That's interesting.
Absolutely. So kind of almost in my opinion, a little bit of a callback to the last issue where they're like, "You don't know who we are? We're the Who. You ever heard of Who?" So we get this another crazy Abbott and Costello bit where, you know, 355, she's like, "Oh my God, 355. No, long time, 7-Eleven. 1033. He's dead. 241 and 853 too. Obviously, all of the primes. I can't imagine I'm still on over 1451." And then York and Dr. Man, they're just like, "What the hell are they talking about?" So,
I'm assuming all the primes are men, right? Is that why?
yeah, I
they're
would
all
assume so. Yeah, or at least like elite agents or of some sort that, you know, would never die in combat, and then they just got wiped out like everybody else.
What was Yurik's joke about 7-Eleven? He's like, "Oh yeah, people make fun of her like she's open 24/7 or something."
Yeah.
Like that.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the tamest of some of the jokes and quips we've got coming up here. So we'll see how many of these we can repeat because, oh, man. So basically, you know, she's introducing the crew to 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven obviously doesn't know that there's a last man. She says, "Is this some kind of joke?" And even 355 is like, honestly, I don't even know anymore. It may be a joke. So they kind of just dump York on 7-Eleven here, while they take Ambersand to the nearest hospital so Dr. Mann can provide treatment. So we're left in this weird, lonely cabin in the woods with just York and 7-Eleven.
A redhead. I'm going to
Nice.
go ahead and add that now. She's a redhead, everybody.
And you also get right before they leave, Dr. Mann shows her hand for the first time to Yorick of her orientation.
Oh yeah, it's right.
Right.
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah, so he gets his first sniff of that. And he's like, "Well, I suppose we can add gaydar to the extraordinary number of common senses you lack."
Yeah, thanks for mentioning. I did breeze over that one. So that is actually kind of an important spot too. But we go to this quaint, nice, cute cabin in the woods. She's like, and then York immediately notices Paradise City. She says, "They belong to my husband. You're welcome to borrow as many as you like." And he's excited because, obviously since I've been traveling light, they're bound to four-wheelers kind of at this point. They don't have too many books. They can't put a short box on the back of the four-wheeler and not get shot at and, damage their books and that stuff. So York's
a little R&R.
reads.
Chilling.
And then he gets a nice tea or a coffee, and then that is when things go south quickly for York. So he gets drugged by 7-Eleven. Another kind of neat thing here, those narratives where it usually shows like the place under the date, the narratives kind of become in York's head. It's like the narrator shouting at York, "York, you need to wake up." Like, because that's how weird it's going to get. And the panels are crooked. And
I really love those panels. I think this is really cool how they're all twisted and he's kind of fading out, tripping out. Reminds me of like Gideon Falls by Sorrentino, like his art, how they're all kind of trippy. But yeah, I love how it gets blurry and just kind of gets darker.
I was almost kind of just thinking of the Capullo Court of Owls stuff, where like almost there's an issue that's like almost turns itself upside down after a while. So York wakes up.
He's in bondage.
So loud, yes, and he gets definitely of note. He's upside down, tied up, completely naked. It looks like here, and he just hears "Shut your mouth" gesture. The fun and games are over, and then I definitely can't show this of the splash.
It's time to get serious.
You can show it.
Time to get serious. So I guess I could do this. There you go, just for you, Jason. It's time to get serious.
See, for me, when I turned the page, like I turned it, and I was like, "Oh," it was so good. I was like, "Oh man, that's what's happening." And then that next cover, it's so
dude, I know, out of nowhere, dude, left field, bro. I love it. It's because he's coming down off of whatever she dosed him with.
He's just tripping.
Yeah. So
he's Dorothy. I love how he's freaking Dorothy.
Yeah.
So that concludes part 1 of Safe Word. What are your guys' overall thoughts so far? Obviously, we haven't gotten it. The next issue is the real deep dive into this insanity. But what did you guys think of part 1 of Safe Word?
Oh, dude, this one hooked me in, bro. Like, definitely, you could not stop reading after reading this issue. You would have to go get the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I just like knew something was gonna happen. You just know, like something bad always happens constantly. And like when they introduce this new character, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be a bad idea. Something's bad gonna happen to Yorick. Like,
especially if he gets left alone with somebody.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, it's just gonna go down. Just know it. Just know it's gonna happen. Then it does. He's like, oh man, I gotta find out what happens. And I just kept reading and reading. I couldn't put it down. I had to finish the whole entire arc.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Same thing for me, Jason. Like once I read this, I'm just like, oh man, like I end up just like the first 2 we read tonight. I probably read them a little bit slower, find myself a little bit distracted here and there. But this storyline, like you got where it's going and what's going to happen next. What about you, Comic Head?
Oh yeah, it was right up my alley, brother. When I seen what was going in, I was like, I knew it was going to be a fun ride, so I was all in.
All right, awesome. So before we get into this, go ahead.
Is this a different artist that takes over, or is it the same one as the last?
No, this is Pia Guerra for the Safe Word storyline. It is a different cover artist, though. I don't think we really noted that on this one. So you don't have J.G. Jones anymore, unfortunately. So kind of, I guess, shout out the great legend, gone too soon, J.G. Jones on the Why the Last Man covers. But hey, you still get these awesome covers too. Not to say that they suck or anything. So I definitely enjoy this one coming up for issue 19, which definitely this is where the next story starts off.
But it just ain't that though.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, that's still the best, in my opinion. All right. So before we dive into the next issue of Why here, let's hop back into the chat. We got Chris Barrett in the chat. How's it going, Chris? There's another guy who's been bidding on a lot of auctions lately, so definitely check out his channel, see what he's been picking up. We got John's Comics with the Kids. All hail King Joffrey. Joffrey.
Yeah.
Kids.
We got Tuma Comics. Hellcome. Hellcome.
Hellcome.
I always want to say Hellcome to Tuma Comics.
Nice. And I think everyone's just talking about digital reading and stuff online. That's a good question. I'm wondering when they're going to release the Vertigo stuff on the DC app. That'd be awesome.
Commandy. Great
And
legend.
I don't know if you guys, I was just telling Legend about the Hoopla app. It's a digital comic reader that's paid for by your library, and it's like stacked with content. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice. All right, so we open up issue 19, and instead of saying like wherever they're at now or 15 years ago, it just says, "Where the hell am I?" So I definitely enjoyed that.
And he's wearing Dorothy's dress.
Yeah, immediately pans down. He's wearing Dorothy's dress. You know, instead of Toto, you got Ampersand. He's in like this little picnic basket hanging out, and they're like, "Pay attention, York. This is important. Use your brain."
The Scarecrow is 355, and Dr. Man is the Tin Man.
Yeah. And then they notice the Cowardly Lion. It's like, you knew this wasn't coming, didn't you? Remember what that girl said before she died? Stay away, you can't come to Oz. And she's like, forget about Oz, York. And then in my edition, you have to turn that page. There's no place like home. So I guess I could show this one too. So yeah, just to get another splash panel. No place like home. Obviously, York is in a bad position here.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. It's like, you're not the lion. That was somebody else. And she goes, you're hallucinating, York. It's just a side effect of the medicine I gave you. And he goes, I was wearing a dress. And then I'm definitely going to repeat that next word, but she's like, I bet you were wearing a dress.
Before he was saying it upside down, now he's right side up, though.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like somehow in his dreams, he got turned right side up and gained a pair of underpants, it looks like, for his troubles. So,
and then he's like, hey, who the hell are you?
Yeah. He's like, it's Agent 711, York, and I've already moved you to a secure location far away from my cabin. I promise you no one's going to find us. So immediately that way, just take away all hopes and dreams that York may have at this point. Says, I don't get it. You and 355 are supposed to be part of the same stupid club. He goes, we are, but the sum total of what Agent 355 doesn't know about the true Culper ring could just about fill trench base.
The Marianas Trench.
The Marianas Trench, yes. So then we see it looks like a fly. It says, that woman has no idea who we really are. So why is there a fly talking?
That's what I was wondering too. Yeah, that was super trippy.
Terrible coming up. Well, we'll get into that in a few panels, I'm sure. And then, it's just something in York's head, and then it creeps him out bad. So, there's something bad coming up with flies. So, yeah, then she kind of starts questioning, York's manhood or his sexual orientation because, he's at the end of the day, he's the last man on Earth, and he hasn't had sex with anybody yet. So she's just like basically wondering what is up with that. So what do you guys think of 7-Eleven's means here and trying to get some information out of York Brown?
Yeah. A little intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely intense, man. His highlights is I like when he calls her Agent 24/7 instead of 7-Eleven. That was great. I like the red light tone that's over all these pages with them. Kind of sets a nice like trippy tone to it. And she is just the dialogue is brutal. I think
absolutely
he was making the right decision on editing, but just know like the dialogue in this stuff is it's heavy duty. We're gonna go deep into Yorick's
Oh
sexual
yeah, this next
imagery
part's
very
messed up, dude.
explicitly.
Oh man, yeah, it gets messed up real quick.
Ugh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so she immediately asked York about his first gay experience. She kind of gets a little vulgar with it, so we won't go into that. Like I said, this is mature readers. It earns that mature readers thing on the front of the cover with this issue.
Yeah, she threatens him with very painful
is rolling in
experience.
its grave. Let's just say that. So we cut to this awful scene where York, they're him and a buddy, and like they're just two kids. It's a flashback. He gets tied to a tree for whatever reason. Kids are playing. They play with knots and stuff.
He's like practicing his escape tricks, right? As a kid.
Yeah,
Very much, yeah. Well, I don't think they specifically say like he's an escape person now. I think this is one of the reasons he gets good at escaping things. 'Cause that
yeah.
means he needs to
Okay.
learn how to undo knots without being able to basically. So
Yeah.
this is one of the key reasons behind him becoming an escape artist.
Mhm.
So he gets tied to this tree, and immediately, like once he can't get out, this boy he's with, we don't really find out too much about who he is. And he just starts screwing around, and unfortunately, he basically just gets raped on this tree by this kid.
Yeah, or at least molested,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
apparently, of course, it's a really painful experience. It shows him crying as a kid, and it shows him crying as an adult,
Yes.
explain the situation.
Yeah.
And then, she kind of just, doesn't really, I mean, she kind of takes it seriously, but, not too seriously. She kind of still stays being mean, and then she hits him with some kind of like truth serum or something.
Yeah. Yeah, so immediately, like this scene, it didn't seem like it was a huge deal to 7-Eleven, but obviously it was a gigantic deal to York too, because he's probably never said anything about this out loud. He's probably never told anybody, his closest friends ever, and this is probably the first time he's ever even had to say what happened out loud. So obviously it's a really big fucking deal to him. As he says, my parents told me to see a fucking shrink. So who knows if he even told that shrink, because obviously his parents knew something was wrong after that incident. So who knows, like if his mother even knows about that. So and then he just starts kind of randomly insulting 7-Eleven. He's just like, the truth. You're a hip. Are you cow? I'm like, it's like, okay, if that's how we're gonna do things, and then that's when he gets injected with this like random green serum, and then goes into another like hallucinogenic
This
state.
next part is awesome.
She wanted to hear about his first time, right, with a woman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's trying to focus on Beth, but you kind of find out basically it's just, he says, I was a sophomore and a virgin, but she was just a sophomore. We've been friends since orientation, but started hooking up with each other after that. She got dumped by one of my roommates. We promised not to fall in love. Then we fell in love by accident. She moved out of the dorms on purpose and got her own shitty studio apartment, which I think is kind of funny because I think he ends up in basically the same thing as an adult. And then, just to kind of show. Can I show that? Yeah, sure. That's probably safe enough to show. It's kind of cool the way they do this panel. Instead of using like thoughts and speech bubbles, they have this like developing Polaroid that keeps
Like he's remembering it. That's what
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Yeah,
I
that's
freaking
cool.
love it.
exactly. So I thought that was
And then the tissue box on the next page.
yeah,
Oh, God.
exactly. Even the tissue box has the thought box dialogue. It says, she told me I could finish, but not inside her. I ended up on her stomach, and we laughed uncomfortably.
Uncomfortable.
Yes. All right, I couldn't say it uncontrollably. All right, a little weird. Yes. So you get those Polaroids, and then this is where the flies come back. So
Oh, man.
next morning, I saw the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. I woke up before Beth and noticed something on her floor. It was tissues I had just tossed aside before we collapsed. They turned to black with flies. So basically, yeah, he says there were dozens of them feasting on my lust, my depravity, my weakness.
And then he started thinking about that. Like he started having this fear that they would be like inside of him, or like growing or crawling inside of him, or he had a fear of that
Yeah.
from then on.
Yeah, and I never heard of that. Is that a thing that would happen? The flies were feasting. Can I say
I wouldn't be
jizz rag?
surprised.
Is that allowed?
I guess.
I just never. That's interesting. So anyway, definitely like now we're getting almost into like David Lynch territory with.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Hey, man, now you know how to catch flies if you got one in your house, bro.
Hello. Anyway, he says, and then he keeps going into the awful parts. He says, and now they had a taste for it, like you guys said. For months, I had these nightmares about maggots crawling up my urethra and nesting in testicles. And yeah, that's
so gross.
hideous. And even 7-Eleven at this point, like, you have problems. So,
But then she comes on to him.
yeah, this is
Mhm.
where
Yep.
like it gets kind of super weird. It's already super weird, but she keeps going and going. It's like, why don't you have sex with me? And he's like, because. And then it kind of goes into, you know, all the reasons, like his parents disciplining him. You have his dad on a panel says, so mommy said that you and I should have a talk about, well, you know. And then it goes to Hero in a flashback sequence as well. Says, I figured out what you're doing with my tracing paper, York. You're drawing pictures of girls with no clothes on. Dropped an imprint on my pad, you ass. And then it cuts to a preacher. He says, well, we call them mortal sins because they deprave us of God's sanctifying grace, thus killing the soul. And he just says, because I have a girlfriend, which is big. If Lying Cat was here, he'd probably say lying. So there you go. So what do you guys think about that sequence?
It was like this simple explanation for him, just instead of having to explain all his past traumas or reasons why, he's like,
worked.
yeah, because I have a girlfriend. You know, it's just simple explanation.
And again, the way he does his panels, man, I really like how he makes it clear what's a memory and what's, you know, going on in present day.
Yeah, those blue color tones is a flashback. Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Yeah, just some of the most creative panel layouts in this issue. Between writing narration blocks on the tissue box, developing Polaroids, the red light tone over when you're in the room with, you know, him in 7-Eleven. Like, man, really. And again, it's always like quick paced. You're always kind of flying through the pages because everything is just it's laid out so well for you. This is a home run for sure.
Yeah, I just like when you get to that point where, you know, Pia Gersh, she's such a great artist. You don't even need to see it like 20 years ago or whatever or anything like that. Or this is Hero or this is his dad or what have you. You just know what's going on and who these characters are at this point and why it's important. So
yeah, she's just been
great
like
art right
degrading him this whole entire time, just bashing him down, hitting him, you know, bringing up past traumas and, you know, just grilling him, you know.
Questioning his sexuality.
Yeah, just
like,
to the max, you know. And then, you know, of course, she comes on to him more and more aggressively all of a sudden. She kind of changes. And then she's like, okay, well, you know, I mean, I'm sure I'll let you get into it. What are...
Yeah, like I was getting ready to say, 7-Eleven, she doesn't need Lying Cat. She already knows that Yorick is full of crap. She says, this girl Beth is on the other side of the world. You will never find her. And Yorick's like, no, you're wrong. So basically, this is kind of the point where she's just like, if you don't want to have sex with me, I can fix that. She just holds up, you know, that little blue pill. That's not going to be a problem. So makes
shoving them down his throat.
shoves it down his throat. So basically takes one of these Viagra things.
And then smacks the crap out of him, dude. Backhands him.
Yeah, and then my favorite part here is like, you can try not to think about it all you want. We both know what's on your mind. And he goes full, you know, Ray Stans Ghostbusters on it. The Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man. That's when he gets, you know, bitch slapped basically by 7-Eleven. And she says, got enough jokes already, you're a child. And he's like, I'm not the one playing dress up, says Yorick. And you know, basically she, you know, comes back. It's like, I'm not the one living in denial. I mean, a few minutes ago, you actually said the most horrifying thing you've ever seen was a bunch of insects feeding on your seed. And she points out, Yorick, you survived the plague that wiped out 3 billion people. 3 billion! Do you honestly expect to believe that's the worst thing you've seen is a few bugs? And then, once again, I don't know how Kenny's version is. You turn that page,
mine too, man. Swipe. I was like, whoa.
And then the color
I
tone.
get it laid out just like that.
That's
right on the other page. Yeah.
Yeah, because like that was the reveal when I turned my page. I'm like, oh, because I forgot about because Safe Word is so weird and crazy. I did forget about this panel until I did my reread as a part of this. So what do you? I'll let you guys kind of
If
talk.
you look at it closely, dude, this panel's messed up, bro.
It is.
Dude, that woman, she's like, help me, my son. My son came out too soon. She,
Mhm.
you know, it died in the womb. So she's just covered in blood and umbilical cord still connected. And then all the guys, there's blood everywhere coming out of their heads and mouths. And oh man, it's brutal.
Yeah, that my son came out too soon line was like, damn. It's
Yep.
like those little. That's kind of like the fun things with these stories is like the little details of what does it actually mean if everything with a Y chromosomes died at once.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, babies dying inside wombs, like all kind of gnarly stuff, you know?
Yeah, and then he kind of goes on to explain too, like, you know, I guess what would any of us have done if we walked outside our apartment, house, what have you, and there's a scene like this going on? Would you have tried to help the lady? But York kind of reveals, like, he just kind of went back inside.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
open the door and he's like, okay, it's closed back.
F that.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
staying at home today.
Everybody's dead. Turn
Yeah.
around.
So then he immediately just says, fuck you. And she goes, by all means. So says, get off. She's like, I'm trying. It's like, serious, don't. So then you get this super weird altercation, of course.
No, Dr. Man.
Yeah. She's like, Dr. Man is a quack. Billions of men had centuries to make a clone and couldn't. What makes you think one woman will be able to pull it off in a few years? Face it, you're all that we have. He's like, no, but Ampersand. He's like, you want me to mate with your monkey? He's like, and then she basically says that thing's going to die before it reaches the hospital. So he's just trying to break him down in every mental cube possible, even wanting to convince him Ampersand is dead.
Yeah, that's messed up.
So then finally, you know, they're bickering back and forth here. And he's just like, I'm tired of running. I want to end the pain. I want you. And it cuts, you know, with this last panel here. You're going to that splash panel. And that's where we leave off for issue 19.
Yeah, he's like, go ahead. You know, fine.
Yeah. But you can just tell the look on his face once again. He's kind of saying at this point, his mental, you know, acumen is just gone at this point. He's finally been broken down into like his.
And then you see that one, the splash, and it's
Yep.
even more.
Yeah. Then to issue
Yeah,
20
little,
text and
little
yeah,
Nirvana, Nevermind vibes
Yeah.
going on there.
exactly.
Yeah, but you're right. At the end of this issue, Yorick finally breaks down and gives in to what would have probably taken me 20 seconds in the Matrix to be like, all right, let's do this. But,
All right. So
he's a better man than I.
overall thoughts on issue 19 before we get into our final issue of the night.
It was awesome, dude. It was intense, but it was definitely awesome.
I mean, it's great because it gives more depth to Yurik. You know, it gives more
Mhm.
answers about his past and how he, you know, I mean, it's more you know, part of his personality, his characteristics. You know, because mostly it's just joke stuff, and now you're seeing kind of past traumas and like actual real stuff that happened to him. You know, so it's good. But I mean, yeah, you see him just totally break down. You know, she broke his wall finally, and then yeah, next issue just gives a really cool twist.
Yeah, man. It's one of the most creative issues of the run. It's like, I'm just so impressed by the layout and the art of this one. Yeah, you get a deep dive into the mind of old Yorick, some of those dirty details. And actually, you kind of get, it's interesting enough that this issue, once you get ahead a little bit, it actually kind of gives you some insight into 355 and the Culper Ring,
Mm-hmm.
what they're about, you know, when you kind of put this all in perspective.
Absolutely. When I read this, that's probably like mid 2000s. By the time I got around to reading this originally, I was getting back into comics a few years back before that, and I could probably safely say I had never read any comic book like this particular issue 19 at that point ever, like not even close. So it was definitely mind blowing the first time I read it. It still definitely holds up.
Oh yeah.
The art and the way the panels are constructed and done, especially at the end of issue 18 going all the way through 19. It's some of Pia Guerra's best work in the entire series, in my opinion. She knocked it out of the park. yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It goes crazy. Like I said, it's not for everybody, obviously. Some people may have read this and were a little offended by some of the words used by Brian K. Von Script here, but overall, I think, especially going into this last issue, it was definitely an awesome read.
Oh, yes.
All right, so before we go into our final issue of the night, issue 20 coming up, we'll go back into the chat, see what we got going on. Looks like we got Eric Compton hopping in the chat. He says, "What's up, Smurf?" He says, "Do we do anything else?" So looks like
what's happening, brother?
we got Pope Cerebus the First. We got royalty in the house, guys. So I know
All right, Pope.
Cerebus, he loves him some Why the Last Man. So he definitely glad to see he says extra super weird. How else can you describe this whole storyline? So we still got Big E Shaq, Chris Barrett, Chad 90 says YouTube is 90. Hold up the Chris Jericho arms, like yeah. So loves him some Y2J or Y290, I guess we gotta call Chad now. But anyway, going into the last issue, it immediately starts off where the previous issue cut. So she goes, "What did you say to me?" It's like, "You heard me. I just want you to fuck me." And she goes, "No." Immediately, she just turns him down completely.
You pervert.
Yeah. She goes, "I am an agent of the Culper Ring, York, not your whore. No means no. Don't make me tell you again." She immediately
whips out a knife, dude.
He's probably full salute at this point. That's a creepy thought in its own. This crazy, unstable secret agent lady with that's a big knife too.
Yeah, dude, and he's tied up, bro. This is not cool.
So yeah, obviously there's the huge knife right there. So yeah, not a pretty picture to paint right there for York. It's like, "I don't understand. You kidnapped me, tied me up, and gave me Viagra." And it's like, "And I would have fucked you, York, but we both know that's not really what you want." And he's like, "I don't know what I want anymore. I was about to betray my girlfriend for 7-Eleven. Why are you doing this?" And she goes, "I need to know that you're not always in control, that there are some things not even you can escape." So basically, she's kind of just given one last end game here, if you will. She goes, "Of course, not even if I was in the middle the wilderness, miles away from my cabin or safe any side of civilization. As drugged up and as stupid as you are, you'd be dead by morning." And this is he's trying to get away. And he's like, "What is this exactly?" And she just goes, the end. And it cuts to, him, knife at his throat, pull in front of him. So not
still
looking
tied up.
Yeah. Tells him to get on his knees. "Sorry, I swore off bobbing for apples after a Halloween party gone bad in the 3rd grade." So
I freaking love that part.
Jokes. At this point,
loved it.
Still cracking jokes. Love York Brown. So what do you guys think so far about issue 20?
Dude, it's killing me. I loved it.
So then it says, "Do it, get on your knees. There's something you're not telling me, York. Ever since the plague killed every other man more than a year ago." So I kind of like that. Kind of gives the time that's gone by because, as we're binge reading this whole story, it doesn't feel like that much time's really passed. But more than a year has passed since issue 1 at this point with that line. So why have you consistently put your life in jeopardy? It's like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't ask for shit like this to happen to me. It just happens. So then he gets dunked and tortured and that stuff. So according to Agent 355's journals in September of 2002, you deliberately revealed yourself to a group of gun-toting Republican widows. Why would you do that? That's a complicated situation. He gets drowned again. They kind of just go over all the reasons. And he says some of them were taken out of context. And he finally just says, "Stop." But she doesn't stop. She says, "Weeks later, you unnecessarily involved yourself in an altercation with 2 armed vagrants from a train." He says, "So what? How many grace hits do we have to go to prove a point?" And she has finally flat out asked him, "Have you ever contemplated taking your own life?" So it's not enough of everything that just happened in issue 18 and 19. Now we're talking about York being suicidal on top of this. And then finally he says, "Wait, just wait." Says the plague was right. 7/17 right. So we go back in time. And I kind of like this segment here where, he goes back to him sitting in his apartment after we saw that one horrific scene with specifically the woman with her male son hanging out, dead, obviously. And he, like I said, he just went back into his apartment. So he says, as he's sitting in his apartment in the flashback, he's kind of narrating what's going through his head for us. He says, I had only left my crappy studio apartment once since shit hit the fan. And as soon as I saw down in my lobby, went right back inside. It's not like there were places to volunteer, anyone to give blood to. It was just the end of a world. That's all.
Yeah,
you just understand. Yeah, go ahead.
He just hung out there until he ran out of food, pretty much till he had to leave to, finally survive or whatever, or find rations or explore for something. And then it's really cool because, like, what happens next is he, isn't this the first scene of the first book?
Yes, it is exactly. So we, as he's walking by, luckily at this point, he even had the smarts to basically put a bandana on. It's probably more for the smell than a disguise, I'd imagine, at that point. But luckily, he kind of had that handkerchief on as a little bit of a disguise for himself, so they couldn't see there's a man wandering the streets. And he comes across this police officer that looked like his sister but shot herself, and that's the character from issue 1. So it's just kind of interesting. They kind of ended up meeting after all in this weird way. Obviously, super tragic at that point because we got to know her a little bit in that first issue, along with some other characters that kicked the bucket with the rest of the men in the world. And he, after seeing this heroic figure, because she's a police officer, obviously he respects the policemen and women. So if he sees that a police officer committed suicide, maybe he should do the same thing. So then we turn the page here, and he says, "But you weren't done. Not unless I'm in hell now." So that line. And he's still getting smashed and beat with things by 7-Eleven at this point. So what did you guys think about that, like, revisit of issue 1 right there?
I thought it was cool that it came full circle back to that first character. It was a really nice touch because they didn't really have to do that.
Nice.
They really didn't have to do that. But that was a really nice touch of bringing that back, man. That was cool.
Yeah, and I like when they're replaying, instead of just narrating the events, they're showing Yorick like in the room, but kind of speaking the narration stuff as dialogue. It's like, man, sometimes you can just totally envision the TV show scenes playing out when you're watching, when you're reading this book. Like, you can totally see that take place on a screen.
Oh yeah.
And the whole flashback has like a blue tone to it this time.
Yeah, the layouts on this is just expert level, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know the name of the colors, but you gotta shout them out too when we get the time. They knocked it out of the park on the flashbacks and the presents, and like you said, the red tones earlier when things got really bad in the present. I did
the next page. I love the use of the shadows and stuff.
Yeah, this is just like after revealing all of these horrible things that he's seen and had to put up with. It's like he's almost like really ashamed of himself. He's been everything that's ever happened to him that's bad has been exposed at this point. He almost, he probably wouldn't even want you to see his face at that point, especially like he cowered away in his apartment at the end of the world. And it almost kind of like, maybe a little bit reminds me of that scene in Taxi Driver, where he takes that Sybil Shepherd to the porn theater. She's super offended, obviously. And then later he's talking to her on the payphone. And Martin Scorsese pans away during this whole conversation because it's just such a terrible conversation he's trying to have. And anyone who would try to have that would be ashamed of themselves. So it's like there's so much shame, he just kind of pans away.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So 7-Eleven says, that woman had the balls to do something you could only dream of. You were too much of a coward to pull that trigger. And he says, no, at the last second, I changed my mind. I grabbed my gas mask from the cop squad car. So I even got the gas mask basically from that woman. So that's kind of cool. And went to find my family and Beth. And she's like, is that why you left? Deep down, did you know that if you threw yourself into enough danger, sooner or later, someone would put a hole in your head for you? And she's just like, you really need to think about that. Am I wrong about that? He says, I saw a part of this play once, a play that some lady in Nebraska wrote after the plague, play about the last man on earth. So even the filler issues coming back.
Yep.
There's a one line. He's like, that's sucks. That place sucks, but it really got to him. So what do you guys think about that callback to the first story we covered of the night?
Now it makes sense why he was so harsh whenever he told her how he thought.
Right.
Yeah, he actually thought it was like the perfect ending, how it should happen, but he lashed out, because he didn't want to really admit it. But that's kind of like, his self-conscious kind of speaking out. Finally, he's finally reaching out and telling the truth. Like, yeah, like she was right, and then he, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but
Yeah, man, it was a tight move. That callback was a tight move on two issues that you thought were just a random, filler. Came full circle, brother.
Yeah, so I thought that was really awesome. He says, I know what I need to do, okay, but I can't do it alone. And then she basically agrees, is like, if that's what you really want, goodbye, York. And he kind of just sits there. At least it looks like it. You get the next panel set here. And he's just kind of sitting there chilling, drowning, having fun. And then you kind of just see this weird light. And he's just like, who? Oh, and he sees somebody. We don't really even know yet. So he sees somebody's face, and he wants to live. So he immediately just shrugs 7-Eleven off, says, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. He runs upstairs, and where were they the whole time?
still in the cabin.
In the cabin.
Same little cabin. So comes once again full circle. So she's kind of just having a suicide intervention the whole time, it turns out. So you kind of keep going. She's like, it's called some French term I'm not going to attempt to pronounce here. Says it's a form of aversion therapy developed during a secret meeting between Benjamin Franklin and another French guy, which once again,
Marquis de Sade.
Thank
He's,
Marquis de Sade. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. He's like
Ooh.
a French poet, basically, back in the day.
Oui.
He's got a lot of really good quotes, and most of them are about sex.
He's got Magre Poupon.
Nice.
Basically, York's just in a state of shock. He's just like, what are you? And she just simply replies, I'm an agent of the Culper Ring. I help get people where they need to be. It's what I do. So I guess that kind of goes for all of the Culper Ring members, whether it be 355 or 7-Eleven. That's their designated job in the tradition of the Culper Ring, just to get people where they need to be, not only physically like 355, but mentally like 7-Eleven's trying to do with York here as well.
Yeah, so hopefully this prevention keeps him from putting his life in risk all the time,
Yeah.
know. So that's kind of the plan, to help him be more safe and more cautious and not so reckless.
And the next question he has, he just wants to know if this was 355's idea or not. Is this why we came here? And she goes, no, this decision was mine and mine alone after recognizing your symptoms from the journal. And he kind of just asks, if 355 did have something to do with this, would you tell me? And she kind of just looks at him, says nothing. So that probably means, yeah, she'd probably be all right with the whole situation. So we kind of go over, they're kind of just chit-chatting a little bit, but he's just like, should I tell you who or what I saw that made me want to live? And she's just like, no, and don't forget it. Whatever you do, it's for you and you alone. Don't forget what you saw in that hallucination, whatever you want to call it. So then to kind of close out the whole storyline, I guess there's one more stinger at the end we're going to have to talk about.
Ampersand returns,
Yes.
and he's healthy.
Yep. So we get, they're just sitting on the porch, having a great
Reading books.
quiet time, reading books. Who knows, what kind of awesome comics they're reading there. Just kidding. Graphic novels.
He's reading War and Peace.
Oh, yeah. There you go. So basically, you find out they got the right antibiotics to get Ampersand correct, but he has soft stool, unfortunately, for the whole crew. So they're going to have to get some more diapers, most likely, for poor Ampersand. So then they ask, what happened that was exciting? And he says, not unless you call reading 300 pages of War and Peace exciting, nothing really happened. So he doesn't tell the two ladies he's been with about this whole experience. So I guess my question to you guys, if something insane like all of this happened and your Conrads came back and we're like, so what have you guys been doing? We just blurt out like, oh my God, this whole bunch, all the stuff that just happened. Or like, I read War and Peace. What would you feel?
I'd be like,
I'm-
get me the hell out of here. Let's go. San Francisco, here we come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's also like, I mean, that fits his personality to just kind of give the short, abrupt answer that, you know, like instead of having to go and explain all the trauma he went through, it's like, yeah, we did nothing. Let's go. You know, we're good.
Just bury it deep down inside.
Plus, if I was him, I would assume that my assumption would be that 355
Probably
almost
do.
orchestrated it. So I'd be like, all right, she knows what's the deal. Because I even feel like she asks it in a loaded way. Like, how about you? You do anything exciting? With a kind of a look. So I would assume that 355 knew what she was doing. They took a convenient. They never leave that guy's hip through the whole book, you know.
Mhm.
So like they conveniently drop him off at a cabin with a homegirl. So
The
yeah,
psychotic dominatrix.
but it was freaking psyops, man. That's badass.
Yeah, man. I think the cure for if you're ever depressed, you know, get an S&M girl to show some stuff.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
At the very least, find your local 7-Eleven, get yourself some Mad Dog 2020, and maybe that'll help.
And a
too.
Cuban.
And a cube. Oh yeah, like Swisher Sweets or something. So basically, like once they're saying their goodbyes here, 355 is like, you know, we could use another good hand on the road. She's like, I belong here. I want to stay here. Grieving her husband still, basically. And she says endings have to be earned. So going into the final part here, she's just kind of looking at a picture of her and her husband. And somebody off panel asks, "Is that Agent 451 you're lamenting? You have my condolences, 7-Eleven." And she goes, "Oh, not you fucks." What's with the whole, they're dressed in like these crazy disguises here. And she reaches for the gun, and she has a tragic ending that she earns, basically. So within 3 pages, she says, endings have to be earned.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, this is the ending that 7-Eleven gets, with a broken picture of her and her husband laying on the ground with 3 bullet holes in her chest. But she
Bye,
says,
Felicia.
but
Hey.
the ironic thing is she says, thanks.
Yeah.
So
Hey,
in a way,
thanks.
she's got a little bit of it almost looks like a little bit of a grin maybe forming on her face. And she may actually maybe this is her way of getting to be with her husband now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
she definitely wanted to go.
Yeah.
You know, once again, you
Yeah.
just said endings have to be earned, and she felt like she lived her life. She earned it. You know,
Mhm.
I was sad to see her go. I wanted to see more of her. I thought she was cool.
Yeah.
You know, especially, I mean, at the end, I thought she was cool. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
all right, now she's on the level. You know, but yeah, I was hoping to see more of her, and so I was kind of bummed to see her go away so quickly. But yeah, I mean, she was apparently happy, and that's how she wanted to go out. You know, she was done. That's where I stopped reading too, so I'm excited, like
Nice.
to read the rest.
yeah, me too. Yeah, and I feel like when towards the end, when the kind of what all of that was about, and they're kind of openly just talking about the suicide intervention and dealing with depression, it seemed like she was talking about it from experience herself.
Mhm.
And those
So
people that
kinda-
shot her, were part of the ring. You know,
Yeah, that's
that
my
they're a
guess,
part of.
because they knew her husband by his agent name.
Well, yeah, and they said you have the condolences of the Setauket ring. So like they're representing the ring, but they assassinated her. So it's like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Are they gonna go after the agent that's with Yurik? Are they gonna hunt that agent down? What's happening with that?
Is this punishment for helping the last man? Are they the reason that there's only one man left and they need to go get him?
Good call.
You never know. You got to keep reading to find out.
So that pretty much bookmarked the 1/3 point of Why the Last Man. 20 issues in, 40 issues to go. So 1/3 of the way through Why the Last Man. What do you guys think about this story so far?
Still digging it, man. Loving it. Every second of it.
Dude, it's awesome. I love how like lighthearted and funny and jokey it is, but then it gets so dark and like emotional. It's quite the emotional roller coaster, man. And it's just great overall, man. I mean, art is good. The covers are awesome, and great pacing. It's a win, man. Solid story.
Yeah, it's fire, man. Why the Last Man is one of the best non-superhero comics that you can pick up, and why is solid.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just a kind of the guest host here, but in my opinion, post 2000, this is my favorite read from issue 1 to 60. I think it's one of the best runs you can find. I'm just kind of I'm going to go over the chat in a second. But yeah, I would highly recommend reading from issue 1 if you're just checking this video out for the first time. Or like, why are these guys like? This seems super weird. Like, Straightforward is like a one-off super weird storyline. It's a very nice, consistent story from 1 to 60. Otherwise, but you know, you kind of get these refreshing 2 stories with the theater troupe as the first part of what we talked about tonight, and then the crazy Straightforward one to follow that up. After that, they're pretty much back on track, going into their next big adventure.
What issue is it that is? What it? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what issue is next? Because my digital version doesn't say what issues.
When they meet
I'm reading.
the gas station chick.
Yeah, I'm gonna say what issue number is it? Because like mine just says page 236 out of 313. Like I have no idea what issues these are. You know what I mean?
It'll be issue 21.
21 is next. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So
Yeah, man,
like,
and it's just like high-level comic books. Like just the craft of it. Like Brian K. Vaughan is like killing it on the writing. Just like trim the fat. You know, it's good writing when you trim out what you don't need. It's like lean and mean writing, and the art is just like, as we saw in the past like 5 issues we did, the artwork, the panel layout is just fire. The color work, yeah, which I usually don't give much thought to, but in these few issues, you do kind of pay attention to what the colorist is doing. Just like a comic book clinic, bro.
Yeah, man, dude, this would make such a great show, man. You know, like
it really
you have
will.
so many characters. It's all laid out like for you already. It's all storyboarded pretty much. You know, it's like, dude, it'd be so easy to translate. I mean, you just got to find the right actors, you know, and a good budget. You know.
Well, I keep hearing they're working on it, but last I heard there were 2 showrunners feuding over something. Like, how do you take this? You make this is your script. Follow it, you idiot! Like, make the show. What are you doing?
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, like Preacher got Pope Cerebus just mentioned Preacher, who Preacher's like the other kind of book of this elk that I kind of put shoulder to shoulder, but and I always thought like Preacher would be cool to see like on a screen and stuff, but you can tell from reading it, it's not as easily adaptable as Why the Last Man. Why the Last Man is a pretty linear, straight forward story. Preacher is pretty fucking nuts. So I'm sure it's hard to, you know, translate some of that stuff. But like you said, man, the storyboard is sitting right here for a while.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for Magic Order show. That's fine.
Dude, Magic Order was probably one of my favorite indie runs last year, bro.
Dude, same. I'm so excited to see that on like Netflix, man. Like ever since I heard about the Mark Millar, sorry to get sidetracked. I love the series so much. As soon as I heard about, you know, it's going to be like a Netflix thing, and then they just didn't announce it. You know, they just kept saying like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this Millar story, this one." I was like, "When are you going to do like Magic Order?" And then finally, they're like, "Yeah, now we're going to do." I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" Like finally. So nice. I'm super stoked and super excited for Magic Order. But yeah, it's interesting for seeing you know, comic books just being developed so much into TV shows and movies, and this one would just be so good. I would love to see this, man. I just hope it. I know it's always talk it's going to happen, but I just want to see it happen.
Well, they're saying Fox just picked up the Goon too.
Oh, cool.
20th Century Fox picked up the Goon.
The Goon. Yeah, let's get back into the chat, and then we'll put a bow on this, wrap it up, and call it a night. We got Pope Cerebus still in the chat. He says Transmetropolitan is his favorite Vertigo, and then Why the Last Man. Yeah, I love me some Spider Jerusalem. I need to read that whole series through, actually. I've read, I think, half of it, and it's an amazing series as well. I love that one. And then he's also shouting out 100 Bullets and Scalped, too. So a lot of great stuff.
I need to read Scalped. I keep hearing awesome stuff about that, and I've never read it.
Yeah, there's so many good reads from Vertigo. That's why, like, honestly, this Vertigo relaunch that DC's been doing now, it's been a little disappointing. There hasn't been, like, that Why the Last Man or Transmetropolitan or just any book that's really had that hook. You know, like the one that was decent turned out I can't remember what the writer did. They did something terrible, and then they got their book canceled immediately. So that happened. We still got Biggie Shack in the chat. How's it going, man? He said, I don't think he cares for Why the Last Man too much. He just likes the panel night. So thanks for sticking with us, Biggie Shack. like I said, if Safe Word proved anything, it's that Why for Last Man is not for everybody. Definitely to each his own. And then Take the Time Collectibles called out what I was kind of about to say from Vertigo. You can't talk about Vertigo without talking about the Sandman. That's definitely up there, like in terms of like your best all time runs. So maybe that'll be something we have to do on the Story Comic Core sometime.
Yeah, man, I'd really like to do Saga or like some Brubaker stuff. You know, anything by Brubaker.
Absolutely.
Really, for.
Criminal.
Yeah, man, I'd love to do Criminal or even Fatale or like man.
Oh yeah.
Brubaker, Kill or Be Killed. But yeah, and then Pope Service brought up American Carnage from Vertigo right now. That's really good too. I'd really like to see a show of that too.
Yeah,
I'm digging
American
it.
Carnage.
I haven't read that one.
American Carnage is legit. It's
That would make like a
intense.
great like HBO show or like Netflix, I guess. But
Yeah.
Man, that'd be. So
It would
cool.
have to be HBO or Netflix.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that one up. I hadn't even heard of that. And then Take the Time says American Vampire. That's a Scott Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque.
They're bringing that back. Yeah.
Are
Snyder's
they?
gonna,
Nice.
Yeah, Snyder's going to do more American Vampire. I didn't read any of the other stuff, so like I really want to read that stuff before his new stuff comes out for it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with Saga right now. I'm trying to blow through all those hardcovers and then get the third one when that comes out, and then maybe add the title to my pull list once that comes back. So, all right. So, final thoughts for the night, guys. Caleb, we'll start with you. Any shout outs, anything you want to talk about coming up on your channel or somebody else's channel? Since we're always on the Comic Core or somebody else's live streams. What you got going on, man?
Just a huge thank you to Kenny for my signed Scotty Young AOK, and a huge thank you to Mr. Miracle for my contest winning. I did a live unboxing today, ate a half a wasabi Oreo on camera. So if you want to go check that out, go have a look.
That's awesome.
I'll definitely have to do that. Legend said to watch this guy's Kingdom Come review, which I will definitely do tonight. Kenny, I didn't know you reviewed Kingdom Come. I'll absolutely have to check that out. But Kenny, Comic Cat 84, what are your final thoughts for the night?
It's and for the record, it's my lowest viewed video ever. I made it a while back, but it's like, it's not just me reviewing it. It's like, I did all kind of fancy editing. I cropped out panels. I did different voices for this and that. It was a big to-do. And as of like a few days ago, that boy spawned 18 views, brother.
Oh, man.
I'll give you number 19.
Check it out.
Check it out. Or don't. It's fine. So, yeah, man, what's coming up? I don't know. I was almost going to go live earlier to open up this like CGC slab thing I got. We'll see. Keep an eye out on your boy's channel. If I'm feeling frisky in the next hour or so, you might see me pop up and open that up. If not, Mega Power Hour this Friday night, brother, with myself, Biggie Shackamania, and the great legend, brother.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pumped for that. Yes. So, yeah, man, definitely pumped for that.
Awesome. What about you, Comics Misexplained? What do you got? Thanks for joining us, by the way.
Dude.
Guest appearance like myself. So
An awesome guest appearance, both of y'all.
Talk about this insane storyline. So what are your final thoughts for tonight?
I just want to give a shout out to Chad 90MF for inviting me. You know, that's awesome. I always wanted to talk about comic books. The whole entire reason I got into YouTube was to talk about comic books with like other people. You know?
Heck yeah.
And like I never get to do any of that. So like yeah, man, that's what I'm about, man. I like as always wanted to do that. So I'm glad to be here, bro. Nothing much on my channel. I've been buying like some books, but I don't know if I'm gonna do a video, like a haul video. I don't know. I'm kind of tired of doing those.
Yeah,
dude, I'm feeling you, Kenny, because like with the doing all the work stuff and like no one's seeing it. I feel like that, like making memes, like a lot of stuff, like I put like a lot of like Photoshop and things into, like they usually go like unseen, and then like the easy ones is like I blow up. So that's just how things are sometimes. I don't know, but sometimes like you're rewarded if like, dude, it's awesome when you put in all the work and then like something blows up. You're like, yeah, that's cool. Like that's what I wanted to do, you know. But yeah, man, I'm sure it's just with anything, just keep doing it, you know. But man, I'm just having a good time either way. You know, it's all about the experience, having a good time. Love being here on the panel, seeing all the homies. Great seeing Comic Kid 84 face to face, man. That's
we did.
Always want to hang out with you, bro. Yeah, dude.
We're gonna do it again soon, brother.
Dude, we got to do this more often for sure. All of us, you know.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
I guess what I got coming up eventually at some point, I think me and a bunch of wrestling fans are going to be on the Comic Core to talk about Money in the Bank. but the ending to that was so depressing that like I don't even know if anyone wants to talk about it. So that's up in the air right now, I guess. So
I haven't seen that one.
yeah, Brock Lesnar. But anyway, that may or may not happen. We'll see. Speaking of crazy endings, I believe we're gonna have one last Game of Thrones review this Thursday at 10 p.m. on the Comic Core. So there will be that. I have some interesting thoughts on what's gonna happen, or not what's gonna happen, but what happened on Game of Thrones. And
I'm just praying for that Aya to get a spinoff.
we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, tune in Thursday around 10 p.m. for that fun. Also, I believe I'm finally gonna be able to make reviews and a half shell this week on 90 MF Comics. I don't have to close on a Thursday, so I can be on Chad 90's channel to talk about some Turtles this week. I'm really pumped for that. And then Friday Comic Core. You never know what's going to happen on the Comic Core. 10 p.m. Eastern this Friday night.
We got the Wednesday show too on Unlimited.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I forget to plug my own stuff all the time. Sorry. So join us on Comic Core on Wednesday for Comic Core Unlimited. We always have a good time.
Nice.
And you never know who's going to join us either. So we're working on some interviews and stuff coming up. I think we're going to try to get Daniel Kibblesmith. He wrote Lockjaw. He's writing Loki coming out. So hopefully I can snag him because we talked a lot at C2E2. He's also a writer for the Colbert Report. So he's got some big jobs to do. So it'd be cool to chat up that guy because he's hilarious and his Twitter is hilarious too. So hopefully we can get that down. But yeah.
Awesome. I don't know. There's probably a show on tomorrow night, so stay tuned to Discovery Bay Comics to see. I might be the Golden Guys going.
Golden Guys is Tuesdays, isn't it?
Yeah, dude. Golden Guys, man, is so good. They just have like an infinite amount of knowledge that you just want to visit over and over again, dude. Those Golden Guys show has like the most replay value, I think, on Comic Core.
Absolutely.
And also and story Comic Core too, man. There's so many people that are getting into comic books, man. Like guarantee there's this like eventually like dude, so many people are gonna be watching all this stuff to get like in-depth reviews and understandings and deeper knowledge of certain books. So you guys at Comic Core are holding it down, doing the Lord's work.
Yeah.
All right, so with all that, for the guys on the panel, for the guys who couldn't be here, Chad 90 MF Comics, and I got to do the legend thing, and for the Natural Whitewell Comics, thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night, guys.